In London, Ontario, an invisible threat lingers in the air. Multiple people have died. Dozens were sent to hospital over the past 2 years from a severe pneumonia called Legionnaires' disease. Health officials knew the culprit, they just couldn't track it down.
Trying to grasp the idea of how bad I was.
Belinda Gibbon was one of 30 people who got sick last summer. She ended up in the hospital with a high fever and gasping for air. To make matters worse, she was also going through preventative cancer treatment. She was put on a ventilator and into a medically induced coma.
It's scary. I lost 3 weeks of my life.
Belinda feels like she's still recovering. When she heard another outbreak was declared this year with even more cases, she waited anxiously for answers.
The numbers were so high, I'm thinking, okay, what's going on this time?
The first case was at the end of May. It's not uncommon to see a handful of cases throughout the summer, but by early July, as the number grew, the health unit started mapping. Majority of the cases were in this 3-kilometer radius in East London, the same area where people had gotten sick and died last year.
It doesn't look like on an X-ray like a standard pneumonia.
Legionnaires' disease is caused by Legionella bacteria, which naturally live in water and soil. It can grow in pools of standing water. People can get sick when they breathe in water contaminated with bacteria that's been misted into the air. It's not transmitted person to person.
It usually causes what we normally refer to as an atypical pneumonia.
Unlike other types of pneumonia, Legionnaires' disease can wreak havoc in both lungs, causing shortness of breath. Other symptoms include fever, cough, body aches, and diarrhea.
So most at risk are people with weakened immune systems. So that includes the elderly. And we've talked a lot with the COVID epidemic about how elderly people tended to have more severe disease. So it's really in that same population.
There's been more Legionnaires' outbreaks reported across North America and Europe in recent years. People have gotten sick from hot tubs, spas, even decorative fountains. But often the bacteria spreads from cooling towers. And that's what London health officials started testing last summer.
So hot water goes at the top and cold water is at the bottom.
Vincent Brown is the technical advisor of a company that maintains cooling towers. They're part of the HVAC system of industrial buildings and skyrises. Most of the towers use fans to cool water, which then helps remove heat from the building.
The risk happens where on the roof you have a fan that creates aerosols of small droplets of water, which may contain bacteria.
With the wind, those aerosols can travel, infecting people 6 kilometers away. Hi. Nice to see you. London health officials spent July and August mapping out cases, tracking where people had been, and testing cooling towers.
So the center is where it's more heavily concentrated.
Legionella is not like COVID-19. It's not like a food outbreak either, where all of these people may have been in one place and have been exposed in the same place. They may have all actually been exposed in different places, but Legionella travels in the air.
Why is this so difficult to find?
In London, there's simply so many potential sources. It's a needle in a stack of needles.
There's many industrial buildings in this area. Finding who has a cooling tower is the first part of the challenge.
We have our inspectors literally walking the streets, driving around on top of buildings with binoculars, trying to identify where potential cooling towers are that still need to be tested.
Collecting and testing samples also takes time. One of the positive samples was found here in the cooling towers of a London hospital. Mystery solved, right? Not exactly. Once a sample tests positive for Legionella, it's brought to a lab which grows the bacteria and looks at its genetic makeup, similar to fingerprinting a suspect.
We will likely identify Legionella in many environments, but again, it's all about making that match between clinical cases and the environmental sample.
The Legionella found at the London hospital wasn't the same as what people were getting sick with. Making matters worse, within a week of declaring the outbreak over at the beginning of August, cases once again started to climb.
My team feels an incredible amount of responsibility. There is a sense of frustration and disappointment.
In late August, after 160 samples from 49 cooling towers, they found the likely source. These cooling towers at Safina Foods, Inc., a meat processing plant, had Legionella. By that time, 4 people had died. About 100 others had gotten sick. The towers are also believed to be linked to last year's outbreak. The case might be closed on this outbreak, but there's not much stopping it from happening again in Ontario.
So in Quebec, every cooling system has to be registered with a serial number.
Both Quebec and New Brunswick created provincial cooling tower registries and maintenance requirements. Now experts are asking for more to be done in Ontario.
Well, having a protocol in place doesn't bring the risk to zero. What it does do is it actually reduces the risk significantly. And if there is an outbreak, it's much easier to find and locate and identify the source.
The London Health Unit says the Ontario government needs to step in to better keep people safe.
It was a horrible year.
In St. Thomas, Belinda thinks about those who weren't as lucky as her.
How many more that were put in medically induced coma that hasn't bounced back as well as I have.
With the source found, Belinda is relieved, but she worries that it's only a matter of time before another outbreak hits.